Welcome back to the Feel the Spirit podcast, exploring the history, mystery, and future of Colorado Black theater. We heard from Gandia Johnson, and she was giving us her impression or idea, if you will, of what Black theater is, or in particular with the anecdote that she shared with us, what it is not. But I wanted to share something with you guys. I think I mentioned when I was introducing Gandia that on 3 occasions over the last year, we have played husband and wife characters in stage plays. The first time that we did that was at Open Stage Theater in Fort Collins. The name of the play was Sweat, and we played a married couple in that particular show. And what I wanted to share with you is what's called backstories, okay? Backstories. And backstories in the world of acting, television, and theater they're things that you develop for your character that aren't necessarily in the script. So it could be where you grew up, maybe siblings. Oftentimes, directors will ask you to come up with a traumatic backstory, something that may have happened in your childhood that influences you as an actor to deliver lines a certain way or to feel a certain way about some of the lines that you are delivering. So in this particular play, Sweat by Lynn Nottage, Gandhi and I were playing husband and wife. I was Brucey, and she was my estranged wife, Cynthia. And Brucey, man, now this was a role because Brucey was a heroin addict. Yeah, one of them, man. So that was just, needless to say, that was a lot of fun. Had to do some research on that one. But it was not method acting, trust me. So anyway, though, I say they're estranged, but they still have feelings for each other. So in this one scenario, Brucey had gone over to Cynthia's house right around Christmas time, and they had some wine. Even though they weren't living together, they had some wine. He did his back blowout routine, right, which he still had despite doing all the drugs and whatnot. And when Cynthia went to sleep, Brucey stole the Christmas presents from under the tree and also stole Cynthia's expensive goldfish. I know, man, that's rough, ain't it? That's just cold. But that was written in the script. That was a part of the script. So one night, either after performance or rehearsal, Gandia asked me what Brucey did with her goldfish. Right now, so she's sort of like exploring my backstory or Brucey's backstory in this regard. And so I told her that when Brucey steals things, because as a heroin addict, he often steals, but when Brucey steals things, he usually takes them to a pawn shop and sells the merchandise at the pawn shop, takes out a loan for it or whatever. But I told her that this time, no pawn shop would take the goldfish. So instead, according to my backstory, what Brucey did was he took the goldfish to the local sushi restaurant. Got top dollar too. And if that doesn't make you chuckle, that's because you probably work for PETA. Yeah, it's just a joke, guys. It's just a funny, all right? Don't call PETA out on me. Ain't nobody over here harming animals, okay? I have a beautiful little dog that I love. Plus, I understand that PETA Gestapo is more aggressive than ICE. Is that right? You heard that? You heard that, Reese? Is that any truth to that you know? Because I heard PETA don't play. Now, you know what, ICE, they show up and you don't have your birth certificate on you. You about to take a vacation. I don't even care. Your black ass is going across waters, man. It don't even matter. That's why I keep a birth certificate with me at all times. I am not trying to vacation in Venezuela this time of year. But is PETA like that? If PETA shows up at the door and you don't have your dog's birth certificate, do they deport your dog? And if so, where do they deport dogs to anyway? Oh no! I hope they ain't sending dogs. They not deporting dogs to Haiti, man. That's just too rough. My little Sasha couldn't take it there between the empty pantries and the wild gangs and empty dinner tables. Sasha don't stand a chance. So anyway, let me ask you a question. Or as Alexander O'Neill might say, question.
Is that how he says it?
That's the way he says it.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be an easy one. It's going to be a real easy question. Remember, like the first one we had, I told you this class is going to be easy to pass. We simply asked, what is theater? And then we asked some of our guests, what is black theater? All right, so here's my next question for you. And again, like I said, it's not a difficult question at all. Kind of like Bill Duke said in Menace to Society. Now look here, you little bleep. I'm going to ask you some real simple questions. And I want some real simple answers. What time did you buy the bottle of beer?
10 o'clock?
You see that? You see that? You know you done messed up, right? You know you done messed up. So you definitely bought the bottle of beer at 10:30. You done messed up. You done messed up. No, that's not my question, guys. My question is this. Now that we have delved into what black theater is, why don't we ask what is, if anything, the importance of black theater?
I feel that there are some playwrights that try to speak for Black experiences and come up with their own biases and conclusions of what it is, and it's misrepresented. So me as a playwright, one of the reasons why I got into playwriting was to be able to represent and normalize Black people in these roles. Starting out in theater, when I was a young pup, I was going out for auditions, and the only auditions that I got invited to were slaves, or they were like mammy roles, or they were like prostitutes, or kind of like, sidekick roles, not really prominent leading roles. And I was like, I love acting, but I don't see myself in this role. I'm a Black woman who has normal experiences every day that are not connected to slavery all the time. That is not connected to your stereotypes of what you think Black people are. And so I started to write my own stuff, and coming up with colorism was one of the greatest things I could have done, because that was something that I went out on a limb for. Didn't really know where it was going to go, but I just wanted to see Black people be normalized and to be able to build awareness and education and all that. So it is important. Like when I hear other theaters say that it is important that we tell our stories, I applaud that so much, because if we don't tell our stories, then someone else will, and will be able to narrate how the world sees us. And that has already been a thing in movies and in TV shows where we are seen as gangsters, or we are seen as drug dealers, or there's always a movie about gangsters and drug dealers. So now when you see Black people, they're like, oh, they're going to steal us or kill us or whatever they're going to do. That is going to be the stereotypical thing that you see on screen. So it is up to us as Black people to be able to narrate our own stories and normalize those stories, and to put them on the stages, so that, Black people are more aware of theater and frequent theater a lot more, because it is run and produced by Black people.
That was Kenya Fashaw. Now, most of the people you've heard from thus far, the majority of them are from that old school, the OGs that were part of the Denver Black Arts Company from 74 to 1980, and then Eulipians, which ran again from 1982 through 1999. But these next two brothers that you're going to hear from, they're from the younger generation. As a matter of fact, I don't believe either of these two cats were even born when Denver Black Arts Company first started. If so, they were very young, too young to be on a stage. But when I first encountered these brothers, Franzo Gilkey and Kevin Quinn Marsham, they were the founding members of a new breed theater company here on the Front Range. I believe they started in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. And when I say young, I mean young. Brilliant cats, brilliant performances. I think they put on roughly 500 plays during the time that the Black Actors Guild was a thing. The first show I saw them do was Dutchman, the classic by Amiri Baraka. Now check that out. Here are these young cats, passion for stage, passion for theater, passion for entertaining folks. And they have the wherewithal to do a classic that first ran in 1964. That's the type of young men and women we're talking about here. And when I saw that show, it ran in Park Hill, which some would call the low end, one of the low ends. It was done in the basement of a church at night on a Saturday. Really enjoyed the show, but was thankful to get out of there and get back to the crib in one piece, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, here's Franzo Gilkey and Kevin Quinn Marsham on the importance of Black theater. And notice how Quinn starts out talking about the collective celebration.
Collective celebration of the story of Black folks at large in America more specifically. And I'd say celebration, even if that story talks about the trials and tribulations, it is ultimately the time, effort, and passion of artists coming together to tell that story. Yeah, you can't step on stage without it being like a celebration of, hey, we're here, we made it, and we have worked together to present this story.
I think Black theater is just the telling of, again, Black stories, brown stories in today's time, but just one that speaks on culture that I think speaks and lends in its ear outside of what is we know as white culture, American culture, but more so speaks on our existence. And I think that comes out in so many different ways. So both from dance, and you can have, you know, different writers, directors coming together to put together a performance that tells the cultural ancestry or the cultural ancestry of a people, to theater, to poetry. I think if it's at least grounded in what is we know to be reality for a lot of our existence and our people, then it's Black theater and it's a Black story worth being told.
Shoshana Staten was born into the rich legacy of Colorado's Black theater community as the daughter of the late Jeffrey Nicholson, a visionary artist whose influence helped shape the state's cultural landscape. And you will be hearing a lot about her father in upcoming episodes. But from Shoshana's earliest days, the stage was her second home. So who better to ask about the importance of Black theater?
It's the soul of it all. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter the building. It doesn't matter the space, but the feeling is different. And I had never been in white theater until my father passed. And I can tell you that it was really an icky feeling. It didn't feel like home. It felt stale. And it felt like we're here to do a job and then we leave. And there wasn't heart into it. I didn't feel like I was home. So Black theater is feeling like you're at home, putting that passion, that soul, that love, that real love into what you are doing and what you want to share and what you want to communicate to your audience. You feel that deeply and emotionally as a Black person. And I don't know if it's the shows, I don't know if it's, but the way our shows are written are from the heart. These people are spilling their hearts and put it on the page. This is part of who they are. This is their experience. This is lived experience. The other shows are entertainment. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we educate. We educate through art. No matter what the art. We did Comeback Little Sheba and I played Marie and it was different than if coming from that space. It was a different feeling than when I watched the movie. I was like, I want you to care about me. And I don't know if I feel that in other theater spaces as much as I feel it in Black theater.
Now, as you know, because there are no Black theater, well, a couple of fledgling Black theater companies now, but you know, when I talk about the main houses, the tier ones and tier twos, we don't exist on that level at this current time, even though long time ago we did occupy those spaces. But what we have now is, especially with everyone, you know, running to, you know, trying to show their diversity and their inclusion, even the white theaters, one show a year, they'll bring in a story either written by a Black playwright, they'll allow a Black director, right? This will be the show where they actually have a Black cast or a predominantly Black cast, but it's still in their house. It's still vintage, right? It's still Firehouse Theater or what have you. Is that the same as Black theater?
No. I've briefly talked to you about this, and I'll talk about it now. Even just being in the room, if I was an understudy at Black theater, I was still a part of the show, and I felt a part of the show, and I felt that love. And you don't get that in other spaces.
In 2014, veteran Front Range performer Adrienne Martin Fullwood starred in the one-woman show Who Will Sing for Lena at the Aurora Fox. Man, this show was, talk about powerful. It was something. But I do have to, let me just, full disclosure. One thing I remember, of course, I remember Adrienne's powerful performance, the storytelling. It was just something amazing to be a part of, to witness. But the other thing I do remember about that particular performance is that, well, as I said, this was 2014, and legal cannabis was still in its sort of infancy. Therefore, your boy, named Adon, hadn't quite figured out how to regulate my intake of certain products in that vein. So let me just say the first act, it was a 2-act show. That first act was kind of rough on me. Like I was like, man, I don't know if I can make it through this whole show. I got to get to intermission. Get me some more water and some more M&Ms or something. Let me just say it like this. There was a brief moment when I completely understood how someone like Martin Lawrence could end up running down the street buck naked. That you, Jesus? Anyway, once again, I've digressed. I apologize. Of this particular performance, the Denver Post critical review said, quote, Martin Fullwood demands our presence. She brings a pent-up force to the role that unleashes most fully when Baker recounts the series of increasingly violent incidents leading up to her killing of a man who was her lover and then her captor. I wasn't surprised that this particular story came up when I invited Adrienne to be a part of this podcast, but this particular answer kind of surprised me at the very end. Take a listen.
But also tell you with a lot of excitement. And there's also tears in some of those stories. Mm-hmm. There are things that have happened. I had the honor of performing in a one-woman show, Who Will Sing for Lena. And it was written by Janice Lydell, and it took place in Alabama, and back in the 50s. And this particular woman was of no importance. She had not done anything of any importance within her community. She was just a Black woman trying to survive, actually, in the 40s. And she was she was executed. I was going to tell that story later, but she was abused by a white male, an old white male that had abused her, and she was tired of the abuse, and she killed him. So she was the first Black woman in America. She was the only woman at that time period that was executed all within, I want to say 45 days. So she was executed, and there had not been an execution in that particular city for, 60 years or so. But she was just trying to defend herself because he was going to kill her. And so after fighting for this weapon, she killed him. And she was tried by a jury. And I want to say it was like in 3 days. It was so long ago when I did the play, I'm trying to remember. But long story short, that is a story of historical moment that was told that a lot of people didn't know existed.
Now, one thing about that particular play is I remember that this story of this Lena Baker, the first Black woman to be executed by the state of Georgia, was a story that I had never heard before. And that, in part, is the beauty of theater. And in this particular case, Black theater. On occasion, you have an opportunity to learn something that you didn't know. Which also prompts me to ask you for a favor. Start documenting your history. As meaningless or as mundane as some of it may seem, it's important that you tell your stories, that you pass them on, write them down, record them. Because if you hadn't noticed, at this particular moment in time, there are forces amongst us that are trying to erase your history. And in the next episode of Feel the Spirit, we will delve deeply into the particular history of Colorado Black theater. And I'm going to let you know right now, I wouldn't be surprised if some of these stories and what I'm about to lay out to you in the next episode doesn't blow your mind. But that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thanks to all my guests, and a special shout out to Reese, our producer extraordinaire. Music isn't just created, it's crafted with precision and passion. Whether it's original compositions for a music-driven marketing campaign, custom sound design, or expert mixing and mastering to elevate your tracks, Diatonic Labs delivers high-quality professional results tailored to bring any vision to life. At diatoniclabs.com, you can access an extensive music library with tracks available for immediate licensing or develop a custom arrangement that sets any project apart. Projects utilized by Diatonic Labs include the Astronomy Club, So You Think You Can Dance Too, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and Miller Genuine Draft, just to name a few. Visit diatoniclabs.com for expert audio and music production services. That's diatoniclabs.com. But until next time, keep feeling the spirit. And remember, this podcast is not supported by any federal funding. Therefore, none of our guests stand the risk of being arrested for using controversial terms such as diversity, equity, or black.